Hi, Bruce from Redeemer. For everybody, when we do get into our discussion, please use the chat box, say hi to people, ask questions. We're going to keep an eye on the chat box. Okay, well, let's get started. Good afternoon now, everybody. Good morning to anybody in Western Canada, and thank you for joining us for our speaker event today. This is, we're excited to join you and have a healthy discussion today. My name is Jeff Ollinger. I am the president of CACEE. I am also a senior manager of campus recruitment at RBC, Royal Bank of Canada. So excited to have you today. On behalf of my CACEE colleagues, really appreciate everybody joining us for what we hope will be a valuable discussion for you, and you can come away with potentially some new ideas, maybe a little bit of comfort that everybody's going through the same thing. But as we know, COVID-19 has continued to have a significant impact on both employers and educators. So the impact on us has been deep, and certainly the anxiety and the stress and the impact on our shared stakeholders, our students, has been every bit as big as it has been for us. So what we really want to talk about today is what are employers and educators doing to help get through this, to help our students, to help each other, and to work together to try and mitigate the impact of COVID-19. I say all of that fully understanding that this is an evolving situation, that we don't know where it's going yet. And it will continue to evolve, and we'll continue to have these discussions as it does and as we all understand it more and as we continue to move through it. So please watch for future CACEE conversations as well on this topic. Excited to have a robust and diverse panel with me today. We have educators, we have employers, we have Western Canadians, we have national recruiters. So we've got a great panel and people who can share their expertise and what it is that they're feeling and going through. Wanted to take a moment to introduce the panel, but again, before I do that, if you have any questions at any point throughout this, and we're going to leave some time at the end specifically for questions, please do use the chat box. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists today if they could just take a moment to introduce themselves and their organization, and we'll start with you, Brooke.
Perfect, thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm Brooke Campbell. I work for Enterprise Holdings as our Group Talent Acquisition Manager. I've been with Enterprise for 9 years now. I started as a management trainee, which is the entry-level position in which we recruit for. I worked my way up to branch manager. I joined the human resources team first as a generalist, and now I oversee recruiting. So a lot of our conversation this afternoon will be around COVID-19. So as a company and as a department, we saw a restructure. So pre-COVID, I was responsible for the hiring and the recruiting for Southwestern Ontario. And I recently joined a centralized team that now does the recruiting and hiring for all of Canada. So my territory is Ontario. So for those educators who are on the call today, I will be your point of contact moving forward with Enterprise. So please reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn. If there's any event that you think we would be a good fit for, please let me know. As well as any educators on the East and West Coast, if you want to know who your Enterprise contact is, please feel free to connect with me. I've been with CACEE for just over a year. Enterprise has always been involved with this great organization. Recently, I joined the regional board for Ontario. So I just want to say thank you so much to Jeff and to CACEE for inviting me to this panel discussion today. And I'm very excited to connect with all of you.
Thanks, Brooke. Welcome. Great to have you here. Erin.
Hi, everybody. Nice to virtually meet you and see you all. My name is Erin Marsden. I'm the head of talent acquisition for Rothman Benson and Hedges. So we are the Canadian affiliate of Philip Morris International based in Switzerland. Rothman Benson and Hedges is a leading tobacco manufacturing organization. We have over 800 employees across Canada, 74,000 throughout the globe, and 8 offices in Canada, our main office being in North Toronto here. and we also have a manufacturing facility based in Quebec City. So our company's mandate is to unsmoke Canada through our reduced risk products by the year 2035. I guess for me, a shameless plug is as we expand our team, our company continued to hire through COVID. So we made a lot of changes, and I know we'll talk about that. Some of those changes are throughout the discussion today. But with that means I'm hiring another bilingual French-English recruiter on my team. So if you know anybody, shameless plug. If you know anybody, connect with me afterwards. I've been with CACEE in some way, shape, or form since 2001. So it's almost 20 years now, which is pretty hard to believe. Time flies, I guess, when you're having fun. And I'm currently serving on the board of directors as the board member who supports strategic partnerships, working with Janice out in Alberta. So looking forward to the discussion today.
Great to have you here, Erin. Thank you. And
Thanks.
so thank you, Brooke and Erin, our employers on today's panel, and now our educators. Kimberly, welcome.
Hi, so I'm Kimberly Dart, and I am the manager of the Career Development Center at the Haskayne School of Business at the University of Calgary. I have a team of 4 undergraduate career development specialists that work with our BCom students and our co-op students. And I have a team of 4 career consultants that work with our graduate students, including Master of Management, MBA, and Executive MBA students. And been with CACEE, I think 7 or 8 years, not quite sure on that one, and very excited for the connections. My background was actually in recruitment and business development, so I feel like I sometimes straddle the line a little bit, and happy to be on the panel and learn from everybody else who's here.
Great. Well, great to have you here, Kimberly. Thanks very much. And Rachel, welcome.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for having me here today. My name is Rachel Ierson. I am the Program Manager for Employer Development at McMaster University Engineering Co-op and Career Services. So our program, we're sitting at somewhere around 5,000 some odd students that we have on an annual basis looking to participate in co-op, which is amazing. And we've got an awesome staff of, I think we're up to 18 now, or getting close to 20. We're really, really experiencing a great expansion in our team in response to having so many students participating, which is fantastic. And I see a couple of my teammates on the chat, so shout out to them too. My particular role within the department is I oversee our employer development strategy, not only within hiring and recruiting, but across the Faculty of Engineering as a whole. So really looking to streamline how our employers engage and have more strategic involvement within the universities that they choose to partner with. So really excited to be here and to share a little bit more today.
Excellent. Welcome to our panelists. Thanks very much for joining us today. And I see a lot of introductions going on in the chat box, which is great. And again, so we'll go through. If you think of a question, please feel free to ask in the chat box. But let me throw out a question to the entire panel to start us off. This can be on a personal level or perhaps within your team, but you know, between March and today, what's been the biggest challenge for you to adjust to so far as a result of COVID-19? Brooke?
So I would say for me, both personally and professionally, it would be the lack of human connection and face-to-face interaction. I think that, you know, one of the things that I've always loved about working for Enterprise is how social we are, you know, interacting with customers, building relationships with accounts and business partners. You know, I love being on campus and meeting new students. So that's been a hard adjustment for me, and I know for the team as well. But I think, you know, the great thing that came out of COVID-19 was there's so many platforms and resources like this one that you can utilize to really stay connected. But I definitely miss seeing my family, seeing my friends, but I really learned to embrace technology. If my 88-year-old grandma can get on Zoom and have me, I think that we all can. So. But I would say that that for sure has been the hardest challenge for me.
Right. It's my 13-year-old is adapting perhaps better than I am. So I totally understand that. Thanks, Brooke. Erin.
Yeah, I second exactly what Brooke said. Look, I think for me too, it's just the not being able to travel. You know, I'm originally from Vancouver, so personally, you know, it's been tough not being able to go back and see my family. Although I know you can travel in Canada. My mom is elderly, and more of a higher risk. So I don't want to be a carrier. Even if I get a COVID test, I'm still paranoid about that. So not being able to travel, we've been telling our folks, you need to use your vacation time. So I guess it's going to be more of a staycation, being that most people are staying in town and not traveling at this point. For work, as work goes, we've had to make some very quick adjustments. So, I guess our philosophy is never waste a good pandemic. And we had an opportunity to really fast forward our plans to move to virtual onboarding, for example. And because we were continuing to hire people, we needed to find a way very quickly, and that means we worked with our IT team, with our work experience team, in order to ensure that they were getting high quality learning throughout the session, that they were engaged, that we're engaging our teams, which is always a challenge when you don't have that face-to-face human contact. But it's worked out really well for us. We've leveraged platforms such as Menti and Teams in order to ensure that high level of engagement. And it's really business as usual for us at this point. And I think it'll serve us well if we do kind of have a phase 2 in the future. So.
Well, in Calgary and Alberta, some of the most beautiful parts of Canada, hopefully you've been able to get outside a little bit. Kimberly, how about yourself?
When we were first on our work from home, I made a point of, because I had the whole family here, of getting out of the house every day and walking around my neighborhood just to have a little bit of grounding in that, and that was really good. As a manager, my biggest challenge was keeping the team connected with each other, but not being overbearing. I wanted to make sure that they felt that they had the room to do what they need to do, but also the support from me to do what they need to do. And my team, like probably many of you, were a mix of extroverted and introverted, and I was really worried about the extroverts and how are they handling being alone all the time, because some of them do live alone. So we had, over the summer, we met up on a monthly basis for a picnic, lunch, bring your own in the park, and we got to see each other. That was amazing, because you don't necessarily realize how much you miss each other until you don't actually see each other every day. And then a big challenge I found for myself personally was time management, because all of a sudden now everything's a meeting. There's no hallway conversations or popping into the office to say hi or ask a question. So my calendar, my husband was shocked to see how many Zoom meetings I had in a day. And I said, right. Yeah, what's my job? But gladly, I never wanted to turn down a team member who said, hey, do you have a minute? I always made room for that. And so a lot of time was spent in this chair over the summer, but at the same time, I think we stayed connected. And I know I felt supported by my team. I trust them, and I can brag about it a little bit to my other friends. Like, oh no, my team's amazing. You should hear what they've done. And it really made me feel good, or makes me feel good to know that I have such a good team that was able to pivot and adjust so fast and maintain our service levels for our students and employers.
Well, it's great that you've been able to get together in person a little bit too. To Brooke's point earlier about missing the human interaction, that's great that you've been able to do that. Mm-hmm. Rachel, you and I live in the city of Waterfalls in Hamilton, and I can almost see McMaster from my house. How are you and the team and everybody coping?
Yeah, well, you know where I live, but because Jeff actually grew up like just down the street from where I live now, so he's very familiar with my neighborhood. But I have been trying to get out and about and walk and go along the escarpment, and occasionally I'd send a picture to everybody on Teams of like, there's campus, everybody wave to it. So that's kind of our connection to campus is, look, it's still over there and I can see it, and just from up on the escarpment instead. In terms of the situation, I mean, we were fortunate that our team was already kind of moving towards a virtual model or a half virtual model before this happened. So I think that really worked to our advantage in being able to adapt really quickly, and the team's done an awesome job of being able to still be connected and feel a little bit more comfortable in an uncomfortable situation and moving with the technology. I think for me, it was honestly like the sheer volume of work that just all came down all at once. Mm-hmm. And especially from the educator perspective, we're balancing kind of that emotional labor of dealing with students as well as employers who are both going through troubling situations. So, you know, it's a lot to kind of manage and to stay positive and to be an educator and to try to kind of keep that momentum going and to be that person. So I think that was probably a huge challenge to kind of overcome, and, you know, has been getting better over time, but that first initial couple months just hit us all really, really hard. And, you know, I'm fortunate that we've kind of worked through it, and hopefully we're on the up and up and things are going to get a little bit better. But yeah, just taking time for yourself and really making sure that the team is, if they need to sign off a little bit early, you know, take some time, go for a walk, like putting yourself first is extremely important right now.
It's interesting. We did a poll recently about, you know, how do you expect to work more or less? And everybody is saying more. That laptop is never very far away. And I think for people that weren't used to working from home before, are really experiencing that now. And you know, it's a different world for sure. So I'm glad you're all well and healthy, and your teams are adapting well. But you know, let's start looking forward now. You know, let's try and predict or try and talk about what's to come and how this is all going to work and evolve. And maybe I'll start with some questions for our employers. Maybe Aaron, I'll come to you first. How has COVID-19 impacted your student workforce planning capabilities? You know, it's tough to forecast how many you're going to hire, but what kind of conversations do you find yourself having, and what do you anticipate the impact on the types and volumes of roles that you might be recruiting for will be?
Yeah, so we actually just wrapped up our intern program. And we had a good amount of our interns return back for committed to full-time and part-time employment. So those who are graduating, we had a 70% conversion rate, which is phenomenal.
That is.
You know, but when they started with us in May, a couple of them were committed to working in our field sales force and sales. And at the time, we had a hold on bringing those folks in. There was a hold on field sales force roles in general because we just didn't know how we were going to adapt the business at that point. So these folks ended up working in marketing, which they loved and they excelled in. And you know, many of them are coming back in that capacity, either when they return to school as full-time or part-time or full-time when they graduate. So next year, we're already talking about our early careers program for 2021. What's interesting is typically our internships had only happen where our head offices are located, which is Ontario and Quebec, in manufacturing and obviously our head office roles. But because we had such a great experience and putting these folks in the field in the past, you know, and now our field sales force has opened up again, we're exploring whether it makes sense for us to open up our internship across Canada, and that will help us in order to create a pipeline for critical roles in the future that we hadn't really done in the past. So I really do think that you know, never waste a good pandemic, and in terms of really being able to say, okay, how do we make lemonade out of lemons?
Right.
This has been a really great opportunity for us to do that. So I actually see us hiring more early career students next year.
Excellent. Great. Thanks for that. And, you know, Brooke, we have at RBC a lot of client-facing roles, just like you do at Enterprise. And I know the challenges we're seeing at RBC in terms of trying to forecast our planning. So same question to you. How is workforce planning going, and what do you anticipate for the coming year?
Yeah, so I mean, our top priority has always been to hire, you know, great employees, top talent. And so we are in a position right now where we're still recruiting. I think in the beginning, very similar to, you know, Aaron, I know that you continue to hire, which is amazing. But for us, you know, we are in the travel industry, so we didn't know the impact that it would have on our business. So we did stop hiring, but we are currently in a place right now where we have started actively recruiting again, which is great. We learned a lot from the first wave that if, you know, fingers crossed we don't have a second wave, but if we do, we feel good about, you know, where we'll be and what our recruiting will look like. I would say as a company, you know, we typically forecast 12 months in advance, but there's so many uncertainties that we're focusing on the next 3 to 5 months and what our plan on campus and fall recruitment will look like. We're really focusing on that piece. We feel good that we know the ebbs and the flows of our business, and we can continue to recruit through the rest of the school year. It's very hard for us, again, to forecast what, you know, it'll look like in May and June of next year. But we're still hiring management trainees. We plan on still bringing on interns, but it's definitely been very challenging for us to your point, Jeff, to be able to forecast our needs because we don't know what the future is going to hold. So that's been a challenge, but I'm happy to say that we're still recruiting. We will still be actively involved on campus this fall, which in the beginning, I wasn't sure that that was going to happen, but I'm very happy to say that that's our plan moving forward. So I'm excited.
We're feeling the same way at RBC. You know, I wish there was a silver bullet or an answer there, but it's really tough to forecast. I fully appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For the educator side, maybe Rachel, I'll come to you first. You know, with the emergence of COVID-19, students are expressing anxiety and nervousness about securing co-op, internship opportunities, postgraduate career prospects. How is your career center adapted to student uncertainty? And what's been your coaching message to keep students positive and motivated?
Yeah, this is a really loaded question that I actually, you know, I've kind of got my opinions, but I did come back to the team too, because it's also everybody's kind of got their own message and way to kind of go about the conversation because it is so challenging to have right now. So I think a couple of the things that we really landed on as a team in terms of helping students through this is really making sure that we're focusing on coaching them through things that are in their locus of control right now, because there's just so many things that are out of all of our control. You know, so what are things that you as an individual student can be doing to, you know, either build out your resume, or can we take time this summer to just think about your personal brand? You know, can you take this time to just research companies and think about future opportunities versus be really heavy into like, I need a job now, and obviously everybody's circumstances are unique, so you work through that. But you know, what can you really do, and what can you really take control of right now, and use this as a period for development and transition and building out some of that resilience and adaptive skills that I think will be valuable for you when you do get to a position that employers are you know, ready to entertain those conversations again. The other thing that we've really been saying, not only to students, but even to ourselves too, is just focusing on being empathetic during this time, and really helping them understand that we are all in this together, you know, to students, to us, and, you know, they're looking to us to answers, and there's just some things that we don't have the answers to, or that we're working through this. So that's kind of been our unifying message for everybody that we're working through, is just try to be as empathetic as possible to your peers, to employers, to recruiters, to career services, as we're all kind of transitioning through this period.
My team at RBC will tell you that I use a lot of cliches, and I've used that, you know, control what you can, adapt to what you have to mentality. And, you know, as experienced career professionals, though, that might be a little bit easier for us to hear than for a student who hasn't gone into the workforce yet. So I appreciate the difficulty of that. Kimberly, you know, your students, I'm sure they're just as nervous as students in Ontario and other parts of the country. And you know, how is Haskayne been able to keep them motivated and positive, and how are they feeling about the coming year?
Well, I would say we're actually probably more worried than students in Ontario, because we entered a recession in January in Alberta when oil and gas prices fell, and we saw a huge drop in postings then, and then COVID. So it's been fun. But truthfully, our students, we're very grateful because they come to us with questions. And so, and because we moved online, which we probably wouldn't have done had we been in the office, we held weekly Zoom-in sessions so students could drop in, and we would have different guest speakers, or we would just talk about something. So there's a different theme, or we had just to come in with a question. And those were super well attended. Like, you know, I was, you know, summer, we don't expect much. And we were getting 30 to 40 students a week. And then we expanded and brought some of our employers in to answer questions like, how do I network online? Or how do I do this? Or what happens if I have nothing to put in my resume for the summer? So being able to partner with employers to give that information to students. And students, as you know, hopefully all of you know, they'd rather hear from an employer than us. So we try to give them that they want. But for the most part, I have to say, students just get it. Like, they know this is it. It is what it is. And I'm going to do what I can right now, and hopefully it'll be better next year. And as a university, we really ramped up summer classes because we don't offer a lot in the summer normally. So a lot of students, I troll the discussion boards all the time, and I was shocked at the number of students that were taking full course loads in spring and summer this year. Wow. And good for them, because why not? And then we did offer some, we have quite a few fall internships, paid internships in addition to co-op available. So the students that were anxious and wanted to find something and saw those, they are jumping on those opportunities, and they'll just defer classes till winter term. So January for us is winter. And they've been very adaptable. We have a few of our new grads that are coming in and asking questions, and that's what we're here for. And I have to say, yes, there's anxiety, of course, but for the most part, they understand that this is out of anyone's control, and we're doing well.
Maybe a quick follow-up for you, Kimberly and Rachel. You know, are you noticing any difference in the mood or the positivity of students who are in co-op programs versus those who are not in co-op programs?
I would say actually our co-op students are probably a little more jaded than our non-co-op students, because they had a plan and now the plan's been derailed, or they've had to adapt it. So when it's what I marvel about students these days. They come in and they've got their plan and they know what they're going to do. And I'm like, I still don't know what I want to do. Good for you. And then when something derails it, they aren't as easy to adjust because that was their plan. So I think co-op students for us have been a little bit more affected in a negative way in their minds, but they've been resilient, and thankfully a lot of them were attending our drop-ins this summer.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that too. Majority of our students in our program choose to be in co-op anyways, but I would say that, you know, in our reviewing our evaluations and everything from the summer, there were plenty of comments of like, this would have been great, but COVID. It's like, but you were still employed. Like, let's talk about like how that was great, but it's still that like, well, I didn't get exactly what I was hoping for because of this situation. Sure. So, you know, there's been a little bit of that. You know, there's been a little bit of obviously everything that was going on with international placements, which is a whole nother ball game, and how that's played into students, especially engineers, depending on where they want to go. That's a whole nother layer to that. Yeah, so I would agree. I don't think it's every student. I think it depends on what their plan was and how adaptable they've been to transitioning. I think those ones that were open to taking other courses or rejigging their plans or figuring out other things, you know, it's just an example of their resiliency and their adaptability. And all we can really do is to help to support those that may not have had those skills inherently or be, you know, as open to practicing them, to help them develop that.
Sure. Okay, good. Maybe we'll come back to the employer side. Brooke, you know, ideally we'd be in person on campus. There's a few things I love more than going into a classroom and presenting in front of a bunch of students. But we all know that everything's going to go virtual this year. What are some of the events, the formats, the platforms, the ways that Enterprise is planning on connecting with students this year?
Yeah, so I would say for fall recruitment, we will be following the lead of the universities and the schools and kind of what platforms they want to use for information sessions and for career fairs and kind of what that format will look like. As an organization, we have Microsoft Teams, which is new for us. We have Zoom capabilities. We utilize Yellow software, all of which will allow us to connect virtually if a student organization wants to connect for an information session, or if we do coffee chats with students. You know, similar to what Erin had mentioned previously, I think for us as a company, it's been a huge adjustment. You know, we're a company that promotes our training program, and all of our training is now done virtually. So that's been an adjustment for sure. All of my interviews have been done virtually now. So it's definitely been something that we've adapted to as a company. But I would say when it comes to fall recruitment, we're just going to, whatever the universities want to have in place for career fairs, we'll definitely be attending. If there's an opportunity to do an information session, we have the platforms available to be able to do those events. But yeah, it's all about embracing the technology. I don't know what the career fairs are going to look like. Pre-COVID, I did one where it was kind of like a chat room where students could come in and, you know, we would have a conversation, but I couldn't see them face to face. So I guess my question, when we get to questions, is just kind of what the format may look like. And I know that we're all trying to get through this together and learn by doing, but it'll be interesting to see kind of the layout and the format of the career fairs come fall recruitment.
It's interesting. If we weren't tech experts before, we've had to become them now.
Right, I know.
Erin, how about you and your team? You know, do you anticipate using anything that we haven't discussed yet, or much of the same programs as Brooke?
Well, we actually have, and it will be announced probably next week, 2 virtual sessions that we're going to be hosting on October 5th. One will be in the morning, the other in the afternoon to accommodate our Western schools. We are also, you know, ready and eager to participate in any information sessions. I did note that a lot of the universities have already started to schedule, you know, the week of October, the first week of October anyway, virtual career fairs and information sessions. So we're going to host ours on the 5th and essentially invite all of the schools across Canada to participate, because a lot of the schools are having their virtual fairs sort of in that same week. And our team is centrally located here in Toronto. You know, we just want to make sure that we reach everybody, but that we also have the bandwidth to do it. And so we'll support that with Microsoft Teams, which is a platform that we've been using for a while now, and also using the chat function and of course social media in order to connect with students and career centers. So I recommend, you know, if we're not connected already, either through CACEE or on LinkedIn, I'd love to connect with all of the career centers and certainly can share that information. But I think really where, you know, we're, as an employer, I'd be looking for support from the schools is really being able to share that information and connect with the students, you know, to ensure that we have that open dialogue in terms of what you're doing in the fall and what we're doing in the fall. So, you know, we can, obviously, we're all going through this for the first time. And I think that's really how we can support each other in this and supporting the students.
Quick follow-up for you, Erin. You know, you mentioned you have a lot of head office roles. We have a lot of head office roles at RBC, for example. And one of the things that we've discovered is that the pool of candidates is expanded. You know, we are not just recruiting in Toronto or Southern Ontario. Previously, a role that would have been housed in Toronto, we can recruit somebody from Dalhousie or the University of Manitoba or elsewhere. Are you feeling and seeing similar things?
We're getting there. It's definitely a conversation we're having. We're investigating something called smart work as well as, you know, hoteling and desk sharing and virtual work and what that will look like. You know, even if we have a sort of a phase 2 of COVID in the fall, there's been a lot of changes to our physical office. But that said, you know, people have proven that they're able to work outside of the office as well. And so, you know, to your point, we did actually hire somebody on our IT team who lives in South, you know, in your neck of the woods out there. And you know, she said, well, how often would I need to commute to the office? And essentially it's a conversation that candidates are having with us and with the line managers to say, look, it's really up to the line manager to decide how they want to do this. But essentially, if you're able to come to the office, you know, a day or 2 a week, and manage your team virtually, then that's something that we never would have considered pre-COVID.
Right.
So I really do think that, you know, it's forced us to sort of think in a different way and look at these opportunities as, you know, we've proven we can work remotely. So why wouldn't we hire somebody, you know, potentially in another part of the country who can do the job just as well as somebody who's physically located in Toronto.
Yeah, any comments there too, Brooke? I know most of enterprise hires will be in retail and neighborhood locations, but there's also a lot of regional offices as well. Are you seeing some of that?
Not necessarily, because we do hire, as you know, a lot of you know, entry-level positions. But I think what has been a huge adjustment for our company is, you know, the flexibility and being able to work from home. A lot of, you know, what I used to hear is, oh, well, that job can't be done from home. Well, we've proven that it can.
Right.
I think that moving forward as an organization, we will have a lot more flexibility with being able to work from home. And similarly, you know, when we do look to hire, you know, staff accountants on our teams or at any of our administrative offices, those admin positions, I think it'll be very much similar where, you know, the individual doesn't necessarily have to live in the city that they're working in because
Right.
it's done remotely. So I think that that's great. And I think it's great for every company to be able to adapt to that and that like work from home.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay. Well, Kimberly, you know, let's hop back over to the educator side. What are you discussing internally about the best ways to engage with your employer partners? Even those, you know, I also recognize, you know, we're talking about some large companies here. There may be others that just aren't in a position to hire. How do you stay in contact with them, and how do you continue to work with your employers, perhaps if they have lighter recruitment needs now?
Yeah, we really want to keep everybody engaged. We understand that the hiring numbers may not be what they used to be. So in April, actually, we started a series of Zoom meetings with our employers, so a group of 4 to 6, to discuss how are they handling virtual onboarding, because that was new territory for everybody. So we just created a forum for them to discuss with each other. And of course, we took notes and shared with our students, but it was really great for them to connect and share ideas amongst themselves. And then through the summer, again, we've been reaching out to them for our fall events. We're still doing all the events we normally do. We're just doing it on a virtual platform. So this week, what would normally be a full day intensive career boot camp tomorrow, we're running it all week with a morning and an afternoon session and bringing in different employers to help present on the resumes or cover letters, networking, different things like that that they normally would do in person, but we're doing it online. And our practice interviews, we actually increased the number of days that we're running that for our students. And we filled up those volunteer spots for our employers just like that. That's my hand. Because everyone still wants to be engaged. We want to make sure there's opportunities for our employers to be engaged. So whether it's with our BCom students or MBA students, we've had no trouble getting guest speakers or help presenting different workshops, and we're very grateful for that. So we were a little worried. We know some of our recruiting team members lost their jobs in Alberta, so we wanted to stay in touch with them as well, because everyone's going to land somewhere. And so a lot of the communication piece was just there, staying in touch with different people and sharing ideas and even connecting each other has been really good. So I don't think it's a strategy, it just is what we normally do.
Right. Right. And Rachel, I know you and the team at McMaster, in the year leading up to COVID hitting us, a lot of new initiatives and a lot of new things underway at McMaster. Have you been able to continue those? And, you know, how do you anticipate evolving the way that you connect with employers and support them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's been a big transition that we've been working towards in engineering co-op, specifically focusing on really innovating and shaking up the campus recruitment experience. So the events and the series and the different things that we've been doing last year prior to this situation, obviously we're continuing that trend. I very fondly remember having a meeting in March, probably the week that we decided to go virtual, where I was sat down and said, you have to now plan for virtual being, you know, completely virtual events come fall. And this was like 6 months ago. I'm like, okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. So, you know, in addition to, as you probably know, if you've heard us talk about sessions before, info sessions is something we've been trying to get away from. That's where we focused a lot of our time in finding different innovative ways to get students engaged and to get their feedback on how they want to engage. So there's been a number of those sessions that we've been able to transition over into a virtual format and rejig them to be able to offer them again. The other really big transition I think that we did this year and that we're excited about is that we created a whole new variety of event series related around building brand presence for companies, because we recognize that not every single organization is going to be in a position where they're going to be able to recruit either at all or at the numbers that they need. But especially if we're working with engineers, which are an extremely competitive type of students to recruit for many different employers, going to multiple universities and trying to find the top talent and try to stand out amongst every other company that's trying to do the exact same thing. We didn't want to not provide opportunities for our employers that weren't in a position to recruit to not be able to still continue to have that brand presence throughout the year, to have different ways to get involved, to still be something that is front of mind and still be able to develop who they want to be and start to attract those students, even if it's not right now. It could be next summer, it could be further down the line. So there's a number of different things that we implemented to our employers to allow them to still have that opportunity to be involved, even if it's not in a recruiting capacity right now.
It's so interesting, isn't it? We talk about adaptability and staying positive and teamwork and effective communication. These are all things that we've challenged our youth to do over the years. And now they're looking at us. They're looking at employers and educators and saying, now it's your turn. Let's see how you adapt to all of this stuff. And, hopefully, I don't think any of us have done it perfectly, but I have to say I'm incredibly impressed by both the educator and employer community and the adaptability that they've shown. To be able to react to what is happening and control the things that you can and influence the things that you can. But it's interesting. The students' eyes are on us. And so we need to be very aware of that. Just as a reminder, we're about 19 minutes from the top of the hour. Any questions that you have, again, please put those in the chat box. I'll give one last question to the entire panel. Maybe Brooke will come to you and start. This virus could still do anything. Nobody truly knows where it's going or what's going to happen. It could deepen and worsen in the coming months. It could show signs of slowing and hopefully one day going away. How are you and the team at Enterprise trying to be as ready as possible for any of these scenarios? And how do you feel employers and educators can support each other as COVID-19 continues to adapt?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, for us here at Enterprise, just like I said, having to adjust the way that we operate our business, but also, focusing on the short term as opposed to the long term, because it's very hard to know and say where we'll be 12 months from now. I would say, though, when it comes to connecting the educators and the employers, CACEE is such a great resource. So if you have coworkers or LinkedIn connections who aren't part of the organization, encourage them to join. I think CACEE as, an organization can continue to offer these roundtable and info sessions to really, have conversation and everyone can kind of, feel like they're in this together. I think that these discussions are amazing for all of us to stay connected. Historically, Enterprise has been very aggressive on campus, but with the uncertainty and the recruitment, we might not be as aggressive this year. We might not be able to attend every event that we would have in the past, but, we talk about that communication piece. And I think it's so important that even if, maybe we aren't able to attend a career fair, I think it's important to still maintain and build the relationships on both sides, because, there will be a time where I think this year we'll probably hire 25 to 50% less than we did last year. But I think it's important to still build that relationship, because hopefully this isn't going to be the way that it is forever. But like you said, there is so much uncertainty, but I think connecting on LinkedIn and staying in contact, whether it's, Zoom meetings, virtual coffee chats, I think that that's so important for us as we kind of navigate through fall recruitment and the rest of the school year together.
Right. And Erin, how are you feeling on your team about, either scenario that could play out? Or do you feel prepared? Do you feel anxious? All of the above?
Look, I think we plan for the worst and hope for the best. And over the last 6 months, we've really put the building blocks in place to be able to support any sort of recurrence of COVID-19. The virtual onboarding that's been put in place, the net satisfaction scores that we've gotten back in terms of the level of engagement of not only our new hires, but our employees as well. It really shows that we're in a great place as an organization. Culturally, we're very, very strong, probably stronger now than we were even pre-COVID, because I feel like people are a lot more empathetic in terms of, what everyone's going through, and very supportive. And there's some loyalty. We kept everybody on board regardless of their ability to work. And there was a time back in, April where there wasn't a lot for the field sales force to do because they're customer facing roles. So, there's a lot of loyalty in that as well, and being able to tell people, tell students that we're still going to honor your internship. It may look a little different than what you expected. And so for us, we still plan to host the virtual career fairs that we're going to host on a quarterly basis. And really, to Brooke's point earlier, maintaining that dialogue through these types of conversations and just ensuring that, we're all supporting the students, because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here, right?
Yeah. Students have been great. I would say we felt that at RBC a bit too. We didn't give them the experience that we hoped we could, but we still feel like it was pretty good. And we've gotten that feedback, and I know you have as well. And I think everybody is understanding. And, there's a skill development piece here. Never waste a good pandemic. I might borrow that line from you, Aaron. But you know what? It's skill building. And 5 years from now, people are going to ask the question, what did you do in 2020 to develop your skills and to adapt? So it's a great point. Rachel, what do you feel McMaster is doing to prepare for either scenario? Have plans been made for winter 2021, for example?
So for speaking specifically for our office related to employers, we're still planned to be fully virtual for the year, just because there is uncertainty and we don't know what's going to develop. So we've made that clear from the start. Even, in the winters when we would normally host a lot of our really big 300, 400 plus student sort of events. So, which would be amazing, but even if we are on campus, I don't know who's going to want to be in a room with that many people, just given the situation. So we're still planning full virtual, even if we're given the go-ahead to start transitioning back to campus, just to be respectful to everybody who's going to be involved in that process. It's also been a lot of conversations with students about that too, and expectation setting with them, because I think they're very excited about the prospect of when campus will go back to normal. And I know our students that we co-partner running some of the large recruitment events that we do in the winter with, some of them are not setting a virtual date yet. They have an in-person date, and I'm like, we're going to have to work on that. So that's kind of been the big thing, is just assume that we're virtual. And if we're not, then that's a bonus. Yeah, right. That's really where we're at.
And Kimberly, there might not be an economy in the country more volatile than Alberta. It's red hot or ice cold. And, so how is everybody in Western Canada, and particularly in Alberta, feeling about this? And, how can employers and educators support each other through what is an incredibly uncertain time?
Yeah, and like Rochelle, we're planning everything virtual until we're told otherwise. And I think thankfully the transition back to normal won't be as sudden as the transition to home. So we've got that in our favor. But like you said, there's a lot of moving parts here in Alberta, politically, financially, economically. So we're resilient. It's not our first recession. We'll get through it somehow. I think we are doing our best at Haskayne. We're sharing information internally. So we have the Creative Destruction Lab, we have our Center for Entrepreneurship, and we're working together to help find the SMEs who aren't already connected with us at the Career Center. I always say the big companies will find us when they're ready, but let's go out and find the smaller companies and the startups who might need our help and don't know how to get a hold of us. So it's a strategy that some of the other centers and I are working on together to share information. And maybe it's a work integrated learning opportunity, not a paid one. But hey, if we can get them connected to the school, they'll get to meet our students and maybe hire one in the future. So we're changing our strategies a little bit, but we really want to be there for the community as a whole to support them. And we've had some good outreach, and it's great to see some projects coming in from small companies who are doing a lot because of COVID. So it's interesting.
Excellent. Yeah, it's again. Nobody's got a crystal ball and can predict what's going to happen. So, let's continue to control what we can and adapt to what we need to. We've got a couple questions coming in, which is great. We got about 10 minutes left in the hour. And maybe I'll start off with our employers on the panel. Our friend Bruce Wilson at Redeemer University asks, what does virtual orientation and onboarding look like right now? So Brooke and Aaron, I'll lean on you to take this one.
Sure, so I can go first. I think that it's very similar to what we do in the past in terms of making sure that we onboard our newest hires. I think that is such a crucial part of their, starting their career and making sure that they're onboarded successfully. So, during this pandemic, we've done everything through Zoom. So holding orientations on a virtual platform, kind of everything that we would normally go over in person. I think that, we're looking to bring So in the past, we bring our newest hires to our administrative head office to do kind of like an in-classroom type orientation where they get to meet, you know, their coworkers, they get to meet the department heads here. And I think that that's a really great experience for them. So they kind of miss out on that with the virtual platform. So we're looking to move to, you know, smaller classes where we can social distance, bringing them in person. I think that that'll really help. But I mean, you know, being able to adapt and doing orientation virtually, it has been successful for us, but we're sticking close to the ones that have maybe didn't have that, you know, in-classroom type experience, because we want to make sure that they, you know, feel great about everything that we promise them as an organization and making sure that the start of their career is successful. So we are looking to do trainings in person, just in smaller classes, again, social distancing.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, look, from my side, I can tell you we've really bucketed our virtual onboarding into 6 segments, 6 buckets, if you will. So we looked at content and digitizing all of our content. So our subject matter experts recorded their in-person sessions virtually, and we translated them into French for our colleagues in Quebec. So content's been all revised and put online. So new employees can learn at their own pace and have access to the videos. And then we have an 1.5-hour engagement every 2 weeks where we connect with the new hires. They meet with the subject matter experts virtually. We go through things like the org chart, you know, a bit about the company. And then we gamify it by using menti.com and polls everywhere, and ensuring that we're checking that they've actually understood, they've gone through the videos, they understand, and they have an opportunity to now ask questions of the subject matter experts. We also do 30, 60, 90-day coffee chats as well in order to maintain that engagement with our new hires. So we really looked at, you know, content, how to best engage with folks in a virtual setting, the timeline to do that. And in the process, we're able to save our subject matter experts about 8 hours a month. They don't have to attend, you know, a full 3-hour session. They don't have to prep. Essentially, it's all rinse and repeat, which is great, and they can focus on engagement. Flexibility in terms of delivery with IT and making sure that people get their equipment on time and that it works. That's been fun. And of course, gathering feedback and pivoting and making changes as we need to. So I feel like we're in a really great place, you know, as we head into the fall, and I think this type of format will serve us well going forward. So if anybody wants to learn more about, you know, how we've kind of revamped our virtual onboarding, I'm happy to connect with you offline.
Curious, Erin, about those 30 and 60, 90-day chats. Are you using 10,000 coffees for that?
No, we're just using Teams.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's whatever platform you use, but I think that's incredibly valuable, especially in this in uncertainty. If you can maintain those connection points with students,
Mm-hmm.
and we've done that a little bit at RBC, and we've seen a lot of value in that, and students are feeling good about having that option and the connectivity. The next question we have, Jenny Park from Norquest College. She's asking a question to both employers and educators. Maybe I'll start on the educator side. How are students feeling, or how do you feel about virtual networking events? How can we recreate that networking experience in a virtual medium for students who have limited experience with networking and make it a valuable learning experience for students and employers? Great question. You know, students, networking, nobody loves it, it seems. It's something that is challenging even for the best networkers, but maybe I'll throw that to Kimberly or Rachel, and how are you seeing that on the educator side?
I think the key thing to remember is students still want that one-on-one interaction. So if you're hosting a great big event and there's hundreds of students in an online room, you're not going to get the engagement that you're looking for. They want that opportunity to have that one-on-one or to ask those questions in a personal setting. So whether you make it available for students to engage with you later on, or have private rooms for discussions or small group discussions, that's really the connection the students want. It's not that, oh, look, there's 20 companies in this virtual room. They want to talk to you one-on-one and get their questions answered. Even if you have to answer the same questions 30 times, they want their question answered and they want to feel special that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I would add to that too, that just even generally speaking about virtual events, like, yeah, there's a lot of fantastic software to leverage. Look into it. I know for us, we're moving ahead with Hopin for the year. That's what we're going to use for anything that's more of like a networking style event. It looks fantastic. Hopefully everything goes great. The students voted it, so that's a win in the start anyways. But also when you're kind of reevaluating your events, I wouldn't necessarily look at it as how can I take this one particular event that we ran and just transition that into virtual, because you're potentially, you know, square peg round hole. So instead, can you take that event or that style or the outcomes or what you're hoping to achieve from that and transition that into something different where you're still going to hit and you're still going to achieve the outcomes that you're looking for? It's not as simple to just kind of transition that over and try to copy and paste the exact same thing that you did. So, you know, can you look at different ways that you can break out different sorts of sessions? Kimberly, as you mentioned, smaller sessions, that's what students want in everything now, which is great. It's just a lot of time and energy for our employers, which I can respect. But that's where we've also asked employers, or we've been having a lot of conversations about, get more people involved than just your HR team and your campus team.
Yeah.
Like, you have alumni, you have co-op students, find amazing ambassadors who can speak your employer brand and get them involved in a whole bunch of different things. You can still vet them so they're saying the right message, but like, get everybody else involved in that, and that will actually make a lot more personalized experience for the student and get them a lot more interested in your company than just kind of trying to just make what we've already been doing and just put it online. And thanks, Ellie, for dropping the link to Hopin in there too.
Yes. All right. Well, some great questions came in the chat box. Thank you very much. I might put my panelists on the spot just one more time here. One of the things that we are all dreaming of is a day when COVID-19 is talked about in the past tense, and we are on the other side of it, and we can all travel again. I know, Aaron, you mentioned that you miss the travel and you miss going to see people and miss going to Vancouver. So once COVID-19 is a memory, it's the first place you're going to go. Kimberly.
Well, I have a big credit with Air Canada right now, so I have to find a place to use it. I asked my son that question. He's 9 and he wants to go back to Hawaii. That's where he went a year and a half ago. So we shall see what it actually ends up being. It might just be flying to BC from Alberta to use my credit before it expires.
Well, Hawaii sounds pretty good. How about you, Brooke?
That's a great question. I would say the East Coast of Canada. I've only ever experienced Nova Scotia. So the CACEE event last year. So love to explore more of the East Coast. I think for the beginning periods where travel reopens, I'll probably stick to doing more domestic travel. But that's where I think I would go. Yeah.
Excellent. And Rachel, we live in a beautiful city, but I know we want to get out of it. Where are you going next?
I was supposed to be in San Francisco in May, so that's probably where I'm going to go, because we were really excited about that trip, and then obviously that didn't happen. So probably out to the West Coast, because I've been to the East Coast. I love it. Still have not been to the West Coast. I always say if I go out there, I may not come back. So maybe that'll be my new home, but somewhere on the West Coast would be awesome.
Very nice. Very nice. And yourself, Aaron, anywhere you want to go?
Well, Rachel, I might see you in San Francisco. I have many, many friends that live there and in Sacramento. And, you know, I keep telling them, I said, you know, curb the, you know, COVID and maybe you'll see me there, but I don't have to, you know, quarantine for 2 weeks when I get home. Vancouver, obviously, to see my family, and I love Atlanta. So I'll be going to the Bahamas as soon as it's safe to do so.
Nice. Well, you know, a lot of us are very lucky in our roles. We get to travel a lot. I've been very fortunate, but my girls have never been to the East Coast, so we're hoping for a Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia road trip next summer. And so we just need to get COVID-19 behind us, and hopefully everybody can start to have some fun again. Really, thanks for this discussion today. I really appreciate everybody's attendance. Kimberly, Brooke, Rachel, Aaron, thanks so much for sharing all of your expertise, all of your thoughts and ideas on how we adapt to COVID-19. For all the attendees that were here today, I hope you learned something new, you got a new idea, or something that can help you in support of our shared stakeholders, our students. Please look for information on our national conference coming in the next few days. It's going to be November 16 to 20 in a virtual format, of course, but we got a lot of exciting things planned. So please look for more communications from CACEE and look for more opportunities like this to engage as well. We want to continue these discussions, particularly as COVID evolves, so that we can all end up going to Hawaii and BC and San Francisco and Prince Edward Island and all the wonderful places that we want to visit again. So I wish everybody a wonderful afternoon. Please stay safe and healthy as we transition back to the academic year. And once again, thank you to everybody for your participation today, and stay well.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Bye,
Jeff, for
everybody.
hosting. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.